Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to this week's weekly champ rotation for the preseason week 7 of League of Legends. Peter Panic coming at you with my guest, as always, Mr. Manslaughter.
Hello.
And this week, he's going to be talking a lot more than usual because I don't feel very well, and I'm not thinking very well, and there's going to be a lot of stuttering, and I really don't have that much time to edit all the stuttering out. So basically, I'm only going to chime in a little bit and let Cody kind of take it away. But we're just going to start it off with Galio, melee support, tanky character. Cody, just take it away.
All right, so I feel like Galio has two main strong points that just make him an excellent tank character. First one being his passive. In case you don't know, Galio receives 50% of his total magic resistance as additional ability power. So basically, you build him tanky, and he does more damage. And then the second thing that makes him a great champion is his ultimate, which is an AoE taunt. It's kind of like Nunu's ultimate, where it takes a little bit to channel and then does a ton of damage, but it actually scales with ability power, which you get from being tanky, and from the damage that is done to you while you taunt everyone. Okay. So, pretty good ultimate.
Yeah, and I would, I know I said I wasn't going to talk a lot, but I have to say, his ultimate pairs really well with other people's ultimates. I will say that. Like, you get a bunch of people stuck in that thing, and then do a Nunu ult with it, or get a bunch of people stuck in his ultimate, and then pair it with, you know, maybe a Moo ult, something like that. I mean,
or even like the champ this week, like Gangplank.
Oh yeah, definitely. That'd be funny. They would just not move. And like Cody was saying, 50% of his magic resistance goes into AP. He actually scales decently at AP. You know, 0.7, 0.5, 0.6, and then 0.3 on that bulwark. But pretty decent champ. One of the I would say one of the better like that. I don't know, that like half tank, half support. You know, yeah. Like that Alistair type character. All right, and moving on to the next champ, one of the most banned champs again. It seems like every week we say that, but really this is, I mean, top 5 banned champs, definitely. Gangplank. Cody, take it away.
All right, so pretty sure everyone has played against Gangplank at least once and know that his Q ability, Parlay, just does a ridiculous amount of damage. So basically, you play Gangplank, you want to build him crit early because his ability does 120 damage plus his attack damage, and all of that is combined when you calculate the crit damage. So it gives him huge crits at early levels and even at late levels. And then his W is basically a free cleanse, another great ability, and then his ultimate just changes team fights.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, his ultimate actually does a fair amount of damage and slows. It's really annoying, especially when he's, you know, across the map and hits you with it. It's incredibly annoying. You'll see a lot of Gangplank players play it where you'll be running away from a fight that you just barely got out of, and then you run right into his ult, and you end up dying anyways. So, really fun champ to play with. Not so much to play against. My favorite Gangplank story, if I can just go off the topic a little bit, my friend Dan, I remember this, like, he, you know, first, you know, a minute 30 seconds in, minions spawn, this, like, a colleague gets a little cocky and comes out a little bit, and he shoots her with Parlay once, and she had about, and he just happened to crit, and she, I mean, the percentage of critting was probably like 1%, hit her with a crit, and she got down to, like, 20 health. Like, I mean, she was so low, and it was so funny just to watch that happen. So that's one of my favorite GP stories. All right, we'll move on to one of the newest champs. I have not yet had a chance to play him, but I mean, he's an arranged carry, so you guys can bet that I'm going to. But it's Graves, one of the more exciting of the new champs, in my opinion, probably because I'm such an AD carry. But he's not so much a straight AD carry. He scales a little bit of AP, but what AD carry doesn't other than Vayne. Cody, you can chime in on this one.
All right. So you're basically going to build Graves like any other AD carry. The difference really comes in how you play him. Yeah, you kind of stay at the back of the fight and do your thing, but in one-on-one situations, you're going to want to get up in people's face using your E ability, which is a dash, and then your Q to do ridiculous damage. And yeah, I mean, he's just a normal AD carry besides that.
Yeah, I mean, his Q actually does do, like, especially late game, does a decent amount of damage, kind of like Ash's volley, but it does a little bit more even, from what I'm pretty sure. You can correct me on that,
if you're at close range, because multiple projectiles from the buckshot can actually hit one target. I know they're scaling down the damage a little bit in this upcoming patch, but it still is going to do ridiculous damage if you're point blank range. So.
And Cody mentioned the patch right there. Next, remember every show after a patch, we'll always talk about the patch in detail. We actually haven't had one since we started the show. Nothing major. I think that they had a small, tiny patch, but nothing really changed. But we'll definitely be chiming in on the patches. Moving on to the next character, fun little champion to play. I've never played him because he's a melee champ, but Jax, and I know Cody's had his time with, as we call him, Jack. Cody, you can go ahead and talk about this guy.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to say the Hextech nerf really hurt Jax a bunch. It was kind of like the Hextech revolver nerf, where you used to stack Hextech revolvers on him and just be ridiculous. When they nerfed the Gunblade, it did the same thing. You can't stack it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So he's still a great champ. He has an AoE stun. His passive is pretty overpowered. His health scales with both his attack damage and ability power.
Which all of his abilities also scale off of. So, well, not all, but almost all. So there's no reason not to build him AP and AD.
When you play him, you got to remember that he is a late game champ. So first 20, 30 minutes, you're just going to be last hitting. And, I mean, participate in team fights, but just know that you're not going to be doing your full damage until late game.
Yeah, definitely. I've definitely seen, if you're playing a Jack in lane, you want to kind of push him the first 15, 20 minutes of the game. Like, you want to push him hard because you're not going to be able to later. So make sure you get out there. Next champ, I can actually chime in on a little bit on this one. Like I said, I'm sick, so I'm not going to talk too long. But Malzahar, really fun AP carry to play, has ranged attacks, and his ult is insane. It suppresses the object and also does a ton of magic damage. It scales at 1.3, does a lot of damage, and also you can put down like a null zone underneath them, which is his W ability, instantly right underneath them as you start your ult. So you can end up doing a ton of damage to even really tanky characters. Cody, would you like to comment?
Yeah, I'm sure you'd probably agree with this, but Malzahar is the biggest single target nuke in the game.
Yeah.
Definitely. He has good scaling on all his abilities. I think they're some of the highest in the game, except for maybe Veigar, who has some pretty ridiculous scaling, and Nunu.
Mm-hmm.
But really with Malzahar, it's another one of those farming champions where you're going to get some points in your Malefic Visions, and it is basically your last hitting tool. You're going to want to push the lane with it, and you get mana back every time it kills a minion. So you're going to want to push it through the lane, get all your farm, and then when you go for the kill, you just want to, like Dave said, put down the null zone, and then your ult, and that's really all you'll need to kill at least most of the squishier people on their team. So.
Definitely. I mean, I will say laning, as I've said multiple times, I'm a big Brand player, big Annie player, and Malzahar is always like a kind of a pain to deal with in lane because he can push the lane so quickly because of his E ability. He can push the lane so quickly, and you can't really get up there because it might latch onto you next, and you never know. So, the fun player, and like Cody said, huge nuker, and also has a really nice silence too. So
yeah,
he has a 3
and one thing to remember. Yeah, one thing to remember about his silence is it actually gives vision on an area. So if you do it like Baron or something, you can check Baron with it.
Yes.
And if they're taking Baron, you can put a null zone under it, and it does huge damage to Baron. So great way to steal.
Definitely. All right, moving on to the next AD, mostly range character, Misfortune. She's, I think, one of the least important AD carries. But, Cody, how would you like to take it up on this?
I would agree with that. I mean, the change to her ultimate definitely helped her a little bit because it made it so it scales with both AD and AP instead of scaling with whichever one was higher. So that definitely helped her out a little bit in team fights with her AoE damage.
Mm-hmm.
But I just feel like, especially in lane, she's just so outmatched by a lot of other AD carries, either through range or early damage.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I play a lot of AD carries, and I've played a lot of them, for a lot of games. And her ult's really hard to hit unless somebody on your team has a decent amount of crowd control. And it's hard to get, a stun on multiples while you happen to be right there to set off your ult. It's just, like you said, it's better to play the other, the top four, which would be Ashe, Vayne, Caitlyn, and Corki. Sorry, like I said, can't think very well tonight. But yeah, it's better to play all those champs and basically in that order too. So, all right, moving on to another. I hate to keep saying it. One of the most banned players. This is definitely in the top 2 banned players. Singed gets banned almost every single game. Really great champ, so tanky, has a great slow as well as a fling. He does a lot of damage for how tanky he is.
Yeah, I mean, Singe he's a tank that if you play him, you won't be like most tanks where they get into the team fight, do their crowd control or whatever, initiate, and then they just kind of run around trying to hit people, do a little bit of damage where they can. If you're Singed, you're going to feel like you're doing a lot the entire team fight from start to finish, cleaning up kills, just because that fling is great, the slow is great.
It's funny to watch Singed in team fights because they turn on their poison trail and they just kind of run around. They try to find somebody and fling them towards their teammates, and then you can't really do anything against them because people build him so tanky. He just has so much health. It's hard to really match him.
Yeah, and he has a great initiation ability too. I mean, you'll see a Singed run at a team, and no one on that team wants to get flipped, so they'll spread out, and that just leaves them all open to be picked off.
Definitely. And I will say, a lot of people overlook his ultimate, but basically his ultimate's just a huge buff. It just really helps him in every single aspect of the game. I mean, it increases ability power, armor, magic resistance, movement speed, health, and mana regeneration. And also his crowd control reduction, his tenacity, is also increased by 20% at level 18. But it's just he's a great champ all around. Has really great abilities. And we'll be moving on to a support champ, one that I think, Cody, didn't you recently start playing?
Yeah, she's my favorite support champ.
All right, well, I'm going to give you the reins because I've never played a single support champ. So go ahead.
All right, so Sona is the Heart champion. Pretty cool design by Riot, if you ask me.
Definitely.
But I think Sona's just a great champ because she has consistent heal over the long course of the game. She also, as a support, she just has great crowd control. She has a slow on her E, and she has an AoE stun that is pretty easy to hit on the entire team. So you definitely do that. And her passive is a little bit hard for most people to understand, but it's kind of like Annie's, where after a certain amount of spells, her next spell does something special. And that's really what is going to make the difference between playing Sona well and playing Sona amazing. Because her E, it makes her next auto attack slow. Her W, it basically destroys someone's damage for 4 seconds. So if you can get that on an AD carry in a team fight, it's just fantastic. and our Q just does more damage. So
I think it's well put, and if I'm being honest to the listeners, I couldn't add anything to that conversation, so that's why I'm not saying anything about it. And moving on to the next champ, it's going to be another Melee champ, Tridamir, as Cody and I have been known to call him Tyrandomer. Definitely a fun champ to play. Of all the Melee champs that I have played, aka this one and maybe one other, he was the one that I had fun with. Again, I wasn't very good with him, but definitely I really like his spinning slash. He can get in and out of fights really well. And then also you can kind of pop that mocking shout, that W ability, which is really fun because it's, has an AoE slow, which is really nice. Really nice in team fights. So, Cody, you can take it away. I know you've played him more than I have.
Yeah, one thing about the W real quick is a lot of people don't realize this, but it's not only slow, but it greatly reduces people's attack damage around. 100 attack damage reduction, that's huge in team fights for everyone.
Definitely.
And then his ultimate, everyone knows it because everyone hates playing against him. It's his get out of jail free card. You fight Tryndamere when his ult is down because he does enough damage in 5 seconds, which is how long his ult lasts, to kill you every time.
Definitely. And always diving you on behind the turret.
I will say one thing, if you're new to Tryndamere and you're going to be trying him for the first time this week, in team fights, you're going to want to pull off your ultimate pretty early because that health bar at the bottom is a little bit slow. Your finger might not react in time, and you'll just die without using your ult. So I've always just found it better to, once I get down to about half health or so, just go ahead and pop my ult unless I'm taking no damage, because 5 seconds in a team fight is usually the length of a team fight.
And that's a long time. People say, 5 seconds is just 5 seconds. 5 seconds is a long time. That's half the time it takes to cast off Nunu's ult, and that feels like it takes all day. So, all right, and moving on to the last champion, but definitely not the least powerful champion in this week's conversation, Vladimir. Cody, I'm going to let you just take it away.
All right, so I'm actually going to disagree with Dave.
What?
Yeah, I think Vlad has become one of the weaker champions, especially this week. The Hextech revolver nerf, the Hextech revolver nerf really killed him because he used to be able to just stack those and do ridiculous damage early. But he's still viable, I guess.
Yeah.
He is more of a late game caster, though, I'd say nowadays, because his passive scales his ability power and his health off of each other. So the more health you have, the more ability power you get. The more ability power, the more health you get. So I've seen some Warmogs Vlads lately, and those are pretty funny, but they actually work.
Yeah, just to kind of rip with Cody, I would just disagree. I think he's one of the better AP carries. I shouldn't really call him an AP carry, but that's what he is. He's so good at poking early lane because of his life steal from the target he's fighting with his transfusion, the Q ability, which is really annoying, especially for weaker champs. Like I said, I play a lot of AD carries. I'm going to say it 1,000 times, so if you don't like it, don't listen, because I'm going to keep saying it. When you play an AD carry, Vlad's not fun to play against because he just keeps leeching off your health. There's not a whole lot you can do about it because it's got a huge range on it, and it's just going to happen.
I will say this. If you are playing it as an AD carry and you're landing against Vlad, one thing you can do is start a Vampiric Scepter to counter his kind of lifesteal abilities and sustain.
Yeah.
And his cooldown at level 1 on Transfusion, and until he gets to level 3 really, because you can't level it up twice in a row, is 12 seconds. And that's a while.
Yeah, but again, he's going to do 15% plus whatever his AP, plus, 25% of his AP. Vampiric Scepter is giving you, 12? I think 12% lifesteal?
Yeah.
So it'd be hard to keep up. But I understand what you're saying. So basically what you're saying is if you think you're going to have Vlad in lane, you're playing an AD carry, don't start your Doran's Blade.
Yeah.
This is basically what you're saying. And I would agree with that. I've started Vampiric Scepter before. It gets you to that Bloodthirster a lot faster if you build that. And people who aren't building that, you should really consider it as as a third or fourth item, after an Infinity Edge and a Phantom Dancer. You should really consider it. A lot of people disagree depending on the champ you're playing. Really, not a lot of people know about the passive on it. Just go read the passive. Farming minions. If you farm a lot of minions, it's definitely worth having. I think Cody would agree with that.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the champ rotation this week, but for the first time ever, we're going to both be picking our champ to learn this week. And we'll riff on that a little bit. And Cody, what do you think? Who do you think the champ is to learn this week?
I'm gonna go with Galio actually, because the tank is a very underplayed role right now, and Galio is a relatively unplayed character.
Okay.
A lot of these other champions that are good, like Gangplank and Singed, you'll learn them, but they'll get banned in ranked. So what's the point, really?
I understand that. Yeah.
So Galio is definitely my pick of the week.
All right, and since I can't pick the same thing that he would, and I probably wouldn't anyways, I will say that Malzahar is the pick of the week for me. I like AP champs. He's really strong in lane early game, but I don't think Cody's pick's that bad. Learn a tank or three. Learn a couple tanks. But I think Malzahar, his nuking effects are insane. The one champ you don't want to accidentally find in the jungle, I would say Annie and Malzahar. So
I will say it's Malzahar. Do not nuke the wrong person. If you nuke the tank, your team will hate you.
Yeah, that's true. You can kill their AD carry in like 4 seconds if you're Malzahar. So make sure you do that. Don't look at a Mumu. Don't look at Singe. Don't look at Rammus. Find their AD carry or AP carry. Take care of them. All right. Thanks for listening this week, and go ahead and comment below. Give us a thumbs up or thumbs down. Cody, you want to say anything else tonight?
Love you guys.
There's love and there's fun and there's League of Legends to be played. So thanks for tuning in. For Mr. Manslaughter, I'm Peter Panic. Thanks for tuning in, guys.